Hello, welcome back, Box1 here, and you may be having flashbacks if you watched the Daily Art 2 days ago now. I recorded this on the same day as the Daily Art because this is a lot of stuff to get out. But today, for this video, we usually don't do many art videos here, but today I'm going to be showing you my art journey from 2019 to 2025. So 6 years, and I've definitely improved a bit, let's just say. But without further ado, let's get into this first sketchbook. I'll put up on screen when I change sketchbooks, and you can see how, because I don't think I'm going to be able to look through in-depth all of these, because that would take probably a couple hours to look at every single picture. So, yeah, let's just get into the first one. Also, future me here, if I say a number that doesn't line up with the book number I had at the title card for that book, just focus on the title card number because I apparently don't know how to get dates correct. Anyway, enjoy. So, as you can see, first notebook was in 2019, and it is the green one, but also kind of the blue one, which is an interesting thing. I'll tell you what I mean. So you'd expect it to be this as the first picture I drew, which is this weird mountain thing with stickmen, of course, because that's all I really could draw. But it's actually this, which also has stickmen, but is the first picture I drew of that year, and then I just put the notebook on a countertop and forgot about it for a year or two. And then I just used this green one for some reason, which is a very weird thing to do, but I'll tell you what what I mostly drew back then. It was mainly Minecraft stuff, Minecraft related pictures like ice spikes, Badlands, Mesa type stuff. Because Minecraft was really popular back in 2019, as well as Fortnite and games like that, right before the lockdown. But speaking of the lockdown, I'll have some stuff later on. But this is actually probably one of the best pictures in this entire notebook. And that's not saying much, but still. It is like a spring days. But it's like a boat in a river or like small little canal thing, and there's flowers and lily pads and frog and duck and boat. I don't know why I did this one, but I just did it in color for some reason. But yeah, that's something I don't usually do, using color. But anyway, we can move on because, oh yeah, this is definitely learn how to draw, like, videos. Like, you know those, I know they used to show a bunch of them in, like, school for, like, I forget what years, like, elementary. Obviously, I did that after elementary, but yeah, during lockdown I did this actually. So kind of interesting. Just trying to show off some stuff. I don't have much time because if I take 3 minutes per notebook, this will be a 36-minute long video. But this is kind of my first look at perspective or something like that, and it's terrible, but I definitely improved since then, clearly. But yeah, it's kind of an interesting thing to see the first kind of tries at something. You can hear. Also, Pocket Ants, yeah, like a mobile game, was very popular at the time. I know a lot of people played that. And then I kind of had to market it beforehand because there's a lot of uninteresting stuff. But also, The Mandalorian came out back in, I think, 2019 or 2020, right during lockdown. So that was fun to watch. I remember me and my father watched it on New Year's Eve to pass the time because we hadn't had Disney Plus before that, really. But we can move on. Also, Among Us inspired drawings were very inspired, were very popular, obviously, because Among Us was very popular. So I did a couple Among Us related drawings. And then we have the final page in the book, which is some more Minecraft stuff. Axolotls. So I don't know what year this one ran to, either 2020 or 2021. I forget what update that those guys came out in, but I think this was before the update, like when they had Minecraft Live. So kind of interesting. I know a lot of bad drawings back here, but as we go forward, you'll see a lot better ones. Anyway, next notebook. And here we go with the second one, also like 2019, 2020 type era, as I have here, obviously 2019. And then I do have some markers in here for what I need to look at. This is kind of my first attempt at like an actual stylized bunch of characters, which I think is kind of interesting. Does it look good? No. But is it an attempt? Yes. Let's go on to the next one and see what's actually here. Ah, yes. Book of Boba Fett, of course. So, I don't know when Book of Boba Fett came out. Like 2022? I think these were among the last pages in the book to actually be drawn, despite being, like, not even halfway through it. This was from a dream. Some Jedi, of course. And then, this guy from Book of Boba Fett. Cad Bane, yes, but with the mouth shoved up way high on his head there. But, let's see what we have next, because I don't honestly remember. Battle droid drawing. Kind of interesting. Just a little battle droid guy, I guess, for some reason. It's kind of cool. I actually kind of like that one. Let's see. Wekins, of course. I may redraw him in the future. I haven't drawn him in years. Since this, actually. Or, I think. So, yeah, he's a character. You don't know him because I've never shown him before, but he's a character that I really liked for some reason. This guy is actually one my friend drew. So that's kind of interesting. And then I copied him into this notebook here. As you can see. It's like I think it was my Minecraft skin at the time. So, that's kind of interesting. That was during lockdown as well. So, the usual. But here, we have this guy, who's like one of my original OCs. So that's kind of interesting. One of the first OCs I've ever drawn. And, yeah. I just thought he was kind of cool. And this is the start of me drawing my dreams. This guy, look at that name. But this guy, back then, was the kind of the first dream. Kind of the first character from a dream that I drew. And, yeah, I've been doing that ever since, really. This guy, this was when Security Breach came out. The Five Nights at Freddy's. So I made a custom Five Nights at Freddy's style animatronic. And I actually think it looks quite good. Even for my own standards now, it is blocky and everything, but I'd say it's overall not too bad, especially with the colors. Also, these two, I guess, exist. But let's see here. One of the last ones. Oh, yes, the two final pages from this one. This guy, which is my own design, I think, probably. And then Long Horse by Trevor Henderson. So, yeah, I was into that back then, apparently. But, we have a lot of more books to go on to, so let's do that. And here we go. This was probably like 2020, ooh, goodness, 2021 to 2022, maybe 2020 to 2022. But, yeah, you can see there's a lot of different stuff in here. I remember the morning I drew this, the morning I drew, these guys here. It was a weird dream I had, and I remember drawing it, surprisingly. That's one of the rare dreams that actually is interesting enough where I remember it. It's very hard to remember some of these dreams, but I thought this guy was cool. This guy. Not these guys, they're horrendous. But I think this guy's kind of cool, actually. I may redraw him in the future. I'll actually just put that up there for a marker for me to remind myself, and hopefully it doesn't fall out or destroy itself. Ah, here we go. Some more stylized characters drawn upside down for some reason. I always thought that looked like Link, but I've never played a Legends of Zelda game. So, I could be completely wrong. But I did that, apparently. Draw that sometime in that time period. And then we have this human lady thing. But yeah, let's flip this back around. We have a good bit to get through in this notebook. Here we go. This is my final Minecraft drawing. As you can see, a lot better than the first. And the final one I really drew. Here's one that I probably haven't shown off before. It is a hamburger. A little hamburger. I got a hamburger eraser. And I just drew it, I guess, on a red background. So, kind of interesting there. And then here, ooh, this fell off. But, is actually like a gradient type thing. And that, I think, was for a school project, though, during lockdown and stuff like that. As you can see, a lot of lockdown stuff and pandemic type drawings. But here we go. This was kind of my first attempt at making like a scene. These two people. It's very, very weird perspective, and it doesn't line up at all. But I think it's not absolutely horrendous. Sorry for the weird cut there, but we have this one, which is actually a diorama I had an idea for. Back when I did those back in 2022, I believe I started, or maybe 2021. And yeah, I did a lot of those back then with cardboard. And then we have the final good one, or actually kind of the final drawing of this notebook. It is these guys, which are very stylized, very different from what I usually do, and very different from what I did after this, actually. So, very interesting instance of me drawing random style here. But yeah, that's basically it for the orange notebook. Let's go on to the next one. The next one is this red one. It is very reflective, and this one doesn't have much in it. I think it's basically just a filler notebook at this point. This is kind of my first attempt at motion, or one of the first, where I actually have characters doing stuff that actually resembles movement. Next, we have kind of my second attempt at an actual like scene or visual area with like a city or town in the background, its car and other stuff like that. Just a person walking a dog or something. But yeah, kind of interesting. Next, we have another OC that I drew, and look at that name. That looks like an Xbox username. Like replace the one and and replace that with a one. Replace that with a 3. Add some underscores maybe. But yeah, an OC I drew back then, kind of odd and horrendous, but I tried, I guess. Here we have like my first weird futuristic drawing, and this was actually quite important because that's what got me to draw all the stuff I kind of draw now. So that was really important drawing, actually. Kind of interesting. This is one of the rare times I drew a actual picture from my dream, and it was a very weird, like deep dark Minecraft style area that we were in. It wasn't the deep dark though. It was some weird overgrown underground train cars or something. Very odd dream. But yeah, that's basically it for this notebook. As I said, not much in it. So let's get on to the next one. And we're here with the next one. This is actually my biggest sketchbook I have, or my biggest that I have. 120 sheets of paper, and I did double-sided ones, so however many, 240 or something like that. But this is probably, this and the next one are the ones where my art style changes and gets a lot better. I guess I improved at this point. This is probably like 2022 to 2023, and the next one is around maybe the same area. I don't actually know the correct dates for these. But yeah. As you can see here, very big change in art style. And this one only stayed around for like a couple drawings, actually. Here's another art style that I went through at that time. Also, most of these only stayed around for a couple drawings as well. Here's a redraw of that Crimson Death guy, so kind of interesting. Very different style here. This one actually stuck for a little while, specifically the eyes and everything, but some aliens from a dream, of course. Another style change, bit smaller characters, and then actual movement and combat, I guess. This one, however, is kind of interesting. Another style change, basically with every one of these there is. But I did this while I was on vacation, so kind of interesting that I got better on vacation. That's a trend I seem to see in my work. The ones I did while I was away from where I normally work were exponentially better. Like this as well, a test with lighting from a dream, of course. It's not good, but first try, I guess. Here we go. One of those more futuristic drawings. Here we have the first instance of that being shown. The cane, which is kind of important, but yeah, just some interesting stuff here. And Mrs. Kazuska, named by my aunt, of course. Or aunt, whatever. I guess I ran out of pencil here, so I used pen. And yeah, just another dream, of course, that I don't remember. Here we go, more futuristic guys. This guy's kind of cool, actually. I like his armor. And then we have this big ship, inspired by a Lego MOC, surprisingly. Kind of odd that I remember that, but it is. Here we go. Now this is important. This is the first instance of a Mornithian alien species thing that I came up with in a dream. And it actually appears in multiple dreams along the way. This is the first one, though, Dream 81. Kind of interesting there that I also colored it. Here you go. A singular stylistic change. Only stayed around for one drawing. Just like this one with the eyes. But kind of like a schoolyard or something there with some bleachers or whatever those are supposed to be. Ooh, that was bright. But next, an actual cityscape and a mountain in the background with a monorail. That's really interesting that I started doing these now at this point. Also this lady, which is kind of cool. Much more detailed outfit. So, pretty interesting there. But that's basically it for this one. I had to get through it fast. As you could see, a lot of stylistic changes here. This is one of the turning points, I'd say, of my, basically, evolution of art. The next one here is where I actually try and refine my style a bit. And as you can see, the second instance of the Mornithians coming back in for Dream 91. 10 dreams later. So, kind of interesting there. And I do like these characters' designs, actually. Here we go. Guy on a horse. I actually showed this in a daily art once, so kind of interesting. And I actually redrew it, kind of. Here we have the Dawsians. One of the first instances of that species, alien species thing being drawn from a dream, of course. All the weird things come from my dreams, including that four-eyed dog thing. Big, basically laser tank from a dream, of course, as well. I think that's not too bad for a tank. Here we go. A very, Harry Potter looking magical school from a dream, of course, as always. Most of these are. But yeah, kind of interesting. Actually, don't think that drawing is absolutely horrendous. It is terrible, but not absolutely horrendous. Another interesting one, like a lava river, a bridge across it with some propulsion things, some big radio thing, then some little ships, starships in the back, planets, stars. Kind of interesting little space drawing there for my weird alien world ideas, I guess. Next up, we have this, which is actually colored. If you can see, it looks a lot better when the flash isn't on or when there's not a bright light drowning out the color, but it's actually a colored one, also from a dream, so very weird architecture there. Nearly forgot to show, but right next to it is actually a pretty cool character design. The bandaged scavenger, and I like how I did that with the G. But yeah, I'm actually going to redraw this, probably. That's why I have the marker up there for me to remember. And then we have a book ender here for the final drawing. And that's basically it for this book. I'm going a bit faster here because I don't want this video to be over 30 minutes. And take 5 gigabytes to download. Yeah. Next up, we have this blue notebook, which is kind of nice, or turquoise. And it has a lot of consistency in the style at the very most. So let's get into it. As you can see, I definitely improved at this point to actually drawing quite not terrible things. And it is this that I drew first in this book. And it likes shedding, I guess. Next up, we have a redraw of the tank from the previous. It is the Nightmare. And it is a pretty cool looking walking tank. We have a drawing that I actually showed on Daily Art as well. And it is this Sunny Fields drawing that I have here, where that's the name at least. And yeah, just thought it was interesting in color. Over here we also have some very cool looking soldiers, also from a dream. And for some reason, they always look like Halo guys to me. I've never played Halo, but they don't look like Halo, but I've always thought of them as looking like that. So I don't know why. But yeah, let's move on. Next up, one of these ladies from a dream, occultist, of course, because I have the most sane dreams you can have, I guess. And yeah, pretty cool. Here we go, another, or one attempt at this as a futuristic kind of city, or cityscape at least. And yeah, I mean, the perspective is way off on everything, but it's the thought that counts, I guess. Here we go with an actual interesting dream drawing, and it is actually in color, which is kind of nice. Another alien species, blue instead of, I don't know, whatever other color, but very humanoid. But yeah, like a little church in the background or something like that. On to the weirdest dream I've ever had, or one of the weirdest dreams I've ever had. Weird dog human thing, and all these characters, which are from the dream. So, very weird. More alien species, of course, and just a very odd premise for a dream in general, I guess. And finally, for this book, we have a couple more characters drawn here. This lady, and then this lady, who, yeah, I don't think either of them are too terrible. Her legs are a bit short, but other than that, not too terrible. Next up, we have this purple notebook, and if it doesn't go blurry, we can see the first drawing. This one's kind of interesting, but I think this was the one I would mark in here. Some characters here that look kind of cool with the trench coat type outfits on. Next up, we have this abomination of a creature, as you can see. I already drew one before, apparently. I don't know where that is, but this is the redraw of it, I guess. So, kind of interesting. This character that I drew in I forget what year, probably 2024. I think this notebook and the next are 2024, as well as the one after this. But yeah, pretty cool. And I realized that if this notebook was in 2024, then that means I stopped using sketchbooks in late 2024. Then, so not 2023. But here we go. This is a redraw of those guys and the weird four-eyed dog. Next up, we have this nice little drawing of a tank with half track, I guess. Kind of interesting. And for what I would say is the first time, an actually decent drawing with some actually decent perspective and stuff like that. Although it's not much perspective, but some decent perspective at the very least. Finally, at the end of this notebook, we have the this library from a dream. So, actually kind of nice architecture there. But that's it for this notebook. Really short, simple one. Let's go on to the next. The next one up is this semi-translucent green notebook. So let's get into this. There's not much in here. I never even completed this one. This one, which is also from a dream, I stopped really numbering dreams around a little bit after this point, but yeah, you can tell definitely different in style, at least a little bit different than what I used to do. They're a bit longer and skinnier, but they still have the terrible posture. Here we go. That one's kind of cool. I like the horns there, and then just a little guy here. Again, I was on vacation for this one, and my grandparents, who I was on a vacation to their house at, have a cat, and I drew it, so kind of nice. Here's some of my first real like tests of perspective and stuff like that. You can see some went better than others, but yeah, not too bad. But yeah, that's basically it for this one. As I said, gonna be a bit shorter for this. Next up, we have my first actual sketch pad, which I actually did an in-depth look through on a previous video. But I got this from my grandfather back in, I think 2024 is when I started this, and I finished it before the end of the year. So yeah, I have a bunch of stuff in here that I want to show, so let's get into that. At the beginning, we have some tests for like hairstyles and stuff like that, which I thought was kind of interesting. Then we have one of the first profile drawings that I really did well. It's not good, but it's at least done a little bit better, anyway. Next, we have a ship design that actually doesn't look too horrific, and yeah, pretty nice. We have some cool little robot designs here, which if it will not be blurry, you can kind of see that. Pretty cool. And this is where I started actually making little animations. And this is the first concept art for the big one that I'm currently working on, which is pretty cool. Here's a brief attempt at a different style. So, kind of interesting. I stopped doing that after like 2 drawings. We have this one, which isn't too bad, and it is in color. It shows up a lot better without this light. But, yeah, kind of interesting characters here. From a dream, of course. Then we have a test sheet, basically, where I tested out different stuff. including this character, which I actually turned into a full drawing. But here we go, with a more stylized portrait here of this guy, I guess. He looks pretty cool. He has a nice little mustache and hair down there as well. Pretty cool guy. This one is from a dream, one of the last numbered dreams here, and it is a robot with no arms. And then this guy, who looks kind of cool, I guess, and realistic, so kind of interesting. Next up, we have a better drawing, an actual better style, I think, which is closer to the one I use now, as you can see. A bit different from the past ones, especially the older ones. Second to final, we have this drawing that I did also while on vacation. You can see where I say that my vacation drawings are always better. But yeah, this girl laying in some leaves with a pretty cool outfit. And finally, we have these characters from a dream of it. Like it was a weird sports team. It was not a real world sport, but it was a sport, apparently, in my dream. On to the last one that we have. It is this big folder. It ran concurrently with this, meaning I have pictures that are at the same time as this, and then moving on from that until now in 2025. So this is 2024 to 2025, as you saw. But I have a whole video on it, which basically shows everything in this section here. This is like the completed art projects, or not art project, but art. Then this is like concepts, which I will show off a little, like that little train. There's some other cool stuff like that guy, but yeah, I show that mainly in Failure Fridays sometimes. But yeah, I'm not going to show everything here, but I have picked out a few that I think will make sense to show off here. That being, first, this is kind of like in timeline order from 2024 to 2025. First kind of person here. That's like early ones that I did. You can see changed a lot in style from then till now. This is like my first kind of perspective drawing that I have in here. 2024. I have this character, bit different, bit better in terms of style and art. Then we can move on. This guy, which was this year, or last year actually, late last year, and I actually used a reference for this. This is Colonel Custer, so kind of cool. Learned about him in history class, so I started to draw him. But yeah, next one, we have this lady with the camera, which I thought was pretty cool, and I did like doing that drawing very much so. Next, an actual color drawing of this lady. I had an idea to draw it, so I drew it, and I think it turned out quite well. And I usually don't color things, but I did this time, as you can see. You can kind of guess what this is by the bleed through, but it is a kind of a optical illusion style drawing that I did with some Sharpie marker, and I think it looks really good. Next up, we have this guy, who I drew just another character. As you can see, my style is changing quite a bit in this time period. And then, let's see what this one is. Okay, we have some lighting test, which is probably the best lighting I've done in a long time. I think it looks quite good. That guy, shadows and all the light. I think that's a pretty nice one. But, next up we have this, which was quite recent actually. Within the past couple months. And it is like a little town, I guess. I think it looks quite good. This is when I started really getting to work on making good landscapes and stuff like that, and putting a lot of detail and time into my work. Like, you can tell with this, I spent like maybe 30, 40 minutes on it. This I spent around an hour and a half to 2 hours on. Which, that's what I try to do. I try to spend more time and make better finished products now. Here's another one with a motorbike. Little less detailed, but it still took me probably an hour 15 minutes. That guy there. That's kind of interesting. Second to final one. A pot of soup. Again, didn't take me as long, but I think is quite interesting still. I usually don't draw stuff like this, like still life type drawings. Or I guess I do, kind of, but not like this. Pretty cool. And the final one, which is the most recent drawing that I have in here. it is this one. I showed it off in a daily art, but I actually have one that's even newer that also uses lighting like this, which will be in a daily art soon. I actually will have that up there, but this is kind of a little sneak peek to the future. Kind of cool one that I did. But yeah, that's what I've basically done over the past 6 years, and that's basically it. I'll show you once again my first versus my last. And here we go. This is the first drawing I have done here, or I guess the second. And then finally, the newest, or one of the newest, this guy. So you can see I've definitely improved a bit. But yeah, if you like more videos like this where I show kind of my growth in terms of my quality and artistic abilities, yeah, I guess I'll do more whenever I improve even farther in a couple years. But I do hope you enjoyed. Quite a long video. I know there were some weird inconsistencies with how I did it, but yeah, I shall see you next time. I hope you enjoyed, and I shall see you next time, little bug. And I thought that was where I was going to end the video, as you could hear, but I decided I'd probably want to show off my animations as well, and I may actually make a separate video where I show off kind of every animation in timeline order. But yeah, I have a bunch here, and you can tell I definitely improved since the first one with, I forget, yeah, I don't even know what that was. Let's see here. Oh yeah, this was the one I used for the intro, so you already know what that one looks like. But yeah, maybe I'll do a video on all of those. And then, of course, we have the big carton of stuff with the big animation that I'm working on. But yeah, again, I do hope you enjoyed, and actually this time, I shall see you next time. Goodbye.